critical. But the point that we're making is we could feel within Esther that feeling of utter chaos and confusion as she was receiving information that was telling her opposite things, and she was in the critical place of needing to make a decision. And we want you to get to the place where you never are in the situation where you're having a hard time figuring out what to do, because you've practiced listening. You've tuned yourself into the guidance that is coming forth from within you so precisely that you never again have to wonder. You can just stare blankly into the faces of all those who are mouthing instructions at you and smile at them lovingly as you convey with your thoughts, "I hear your words, but they mean nothing to me." They mean nothing to me because you have no way of knowing who I was in non-physical as I projected myself here. You have no way of knowing what life has caused me to put into my vibrational escrow. You have no way of knowing the sources over there, the full embodiment of that which I am, calling me with a very powerful signal. And you have no idea of knowing that I've been practicing every day of my life, especially recently, listening to the call of source. And you have no idea that I'm on track with a signal and a beam that is undeniably the best path for me to follow, and your opinion no longer counts. Because I'm tuned in, tapped in, turned on. I know what the call of source feels like. And the call of source, they will say, what does it feel like? Does it feel like joy? Does it sound like harps and angels? What does the call of source feel like? And what you will always say to them is, I cannot give it a defining word like joy or love or passion, because the call of source sounds different to me depending upon where I am on my emotional scale. If something has me upside down from who I am, and I am feeling despair or discouragement or fear or even anger, the call of source does not sound like appreciation and love and harps and angels. But what it always does sound and feel like is relief. Because when I turn in the direction of that energy stream, I always feel the relief of the resistance subsiding dramatically. Imagine going to the river's edge, taking your canoe, your paddles are already in the boat, and you put your boat in the water and you deliberately turn it upstream. And feel with us for just a moment the feeling of paddling against this swift current. In other words, imagine the concentration and energy and effort it would take to paddle against that current. And let's just say for a moment that you have been doing it long enough that you have your muscles in tune. You've got a specially designed boat that cuts the water especially well. You've got paddles that are aerodynamically created, and they are rooted, they are hooked to the boat so that you can really get going at it. And let's say that you have mastered paddling upstream. You've really been good at it. And the reason you got so good at it is because every time you turn your boat downstream, others around you called you lazy. And so you got really, really good at paddling upstream because you began to notice that all of the books are written about those that paddle upstream. That's where the virtue is. That's where all of the things, all of the rewards and monuments are for those who paddle upstream. In other words, life is not supposed to be easy, you've been taught. Life is hard. Life is a struggle. You have to get yourself up for it. Your friends and your family, especially your parents, said, buck up, buck up, buck up. You can do it. You can hang in there. And so you get pointed upstream, and you get pretty good at pointing upstream. You got the feeling of pointing upstream. And now imagine for just a moment that you just stop paddling for just a moment and feel the relief in your body. And then feel the current turn your boat, and feel yourself beginning to move with the current. And ask yourself, is there any physical relief in that? Can't you feel the visceral relief in going with the flow? But some of you are saying, but Abraham, that's just what we do. We all paddle upstream. I don't want to be a freak. We paddle upstream. That's what we do. We paddle upstream. And we say, hear this, it's really worth writing this down. Nothing that you want is upstream. Nothing that you want is upstream, because everything that your life has caused you to ask for, source has become, and source is calling you toward it, and source calling you is the reason that the stream exists. Do you get that? That's what the current is. In fact, when life has caused you to ask for this and this and this and this and this, you have created this magnificent future experience. We like to call it your vibrational escrow because it is yours, and source is tending to it while you get yourself in vibrational alignment with it. And so as you understand that what you've been asking for is there and that source is calling you toward it, you begin to understand what this current is all about. It's a current that you have created by living life and asking for this and this and this and this and this and this and this. So when you don't go with the current, when you don't go with your own self-created current, the current beats you up pretty good. And the longer you live, the more the current moves faster. And so, because the more you ask for, the more Source says yes to, the faster the current moves. A little boy on the lunch hour recently asked his mother, who, when she came back, happened to be the first one in the hot seat. And she said, "My child asked me to ask you this question. Why are adults so grumpy?" And we said, because the longer you live, the more things you ask for. And the more things you ask for, the faster your stream moves. And the faster your stream moves, the more important it is that you're going with the flow of your stream. And when you have beliefs, when you have systems in place, when you have habits of thoughts, which is all that a belief is, that take you in opposition to your self-created stream, it tears you apart and you feel bad. The other reason is because physical humans, and the longer you live, the more you do this. Children don't do it, but adults do. You come to believe so much in action that as you believe in your action, which does not have the leverage that the energy that creates worlds has, so you work so hard against a current that you are exhausted so much of the time. And in your physical exhaustion, you lose your connection with the stream. Jerry and Esther had the wonderful experience a few weeks ago when they were in Colorado of going whitewater rafting with friends. There were several boats in the water, and 8 of them in their particular boat, friends of theirs. And as they set that boat in that fast-moving stream, it was rated some rapids 4, some rapids 3. As they put that boat in the water, it became immediately apparent to Jerry and Esther and their friends that they were not going to be able to paddle upstream. Didn't occur to them. They didn't say, "We think we'll go this way." That river was going to have its way with them. And we want you to understand that your river does too. In other words, you have lived life before you came into this body, and your stream was moving. And then when you got into this body, you added to it even more. And so you've got a stream that's moving, and friends, you have no choice but to go with it. And when you don't go with it, it beats you up. When you die, there is no death, but when you croak, there is no croaking, but you know what we mean. When you you'll go with the flow. You will go with the flow. You will whoosh into pure positive energy, and you will stop your resistance altogether, because you will withdraw your attention from the habits of thought, from the beliefs that have got you going upstream. So as Jerry and Esther and their friends got into this fast-moving river, they noticed it as they were in the bus driving up the canyon to where they were going to set in. Jerry and Esther looked at the stream and said to each other on more than one occasion, "What have we gotten ourselves into?" Because there were some places where this stream narrowed to the point that the water was rushing so fast, it didn't look even possible to get under that bridge that the water was moving through. And in some places, the big rocks, which were rooted to the floor of the stream, which were not going with the flow, when that fast-moving water came up against those rocks which were not going with the flow, there were gushers and geysers of water that were flying everywhere. And Jerry and Esther wondered, "I hope these people know what they're doing," as they recalled the disclaimer that they had signed, the release form, which Esther read one paragraph and then stopped reading. She said, "I'm just going to sign it. I'm not going to read this because it made it seem not possible to do this and survive it." And so, as they got into the river and they began to move with the stream, the guide said to them very clearly, "We're wanting to be aware of what I am telling you to do so that we will not get our boat up against one of those big rocks. Because if the boat gets lodged against one of those big rocks, the river cannot be turned off." He said, "This is not Disneyland. We have no control of this river. It's going to keep going regardless of where our boat is in it." And his point is the same point that we're making with you. When you step into a fast-moving stream and you get lodged up against some belief that doesn't let you go with the flow keeps going and it beats you up. And that's what powerful negative emotion is. So when you feel powerful negative emotion, do you know what it means? It means your life has caused you to call source through you in such a powerful way that you've got a fast-moving stream going. And you know what else it means? It means you are focused in opposition of what you've been asking for, and so you are attempting to root yourself to the floor of this stream or to paddle upstream. And as long as you are doing that, this fast-moving stream, the stream that you have set into motion, the stream that is life, the stream that is moving because of your asking for things, that stream will beat you up to the point that you could have misery. So don't do that, yes? So don't you like knowing that it's all you're doing, that everything that you feel is about what you are doing? It's about the stream and how fast you got it going, and it's about what you're doing with your thoughts as you're in the stream. And so you stop the struggle and all of the negative antics, and you just go with the flow toward what you are wanting. If you can embrace that philosophy, as soon as tomorrow, things that you have been waiting for will pop into your experience. In the moment that you stop doing this thing where you're pointed upstream and you begin to turn and go with the stream, in the moment that you do that, you'll feel relief. And soon after you feel that relief, you'll begin to reap the benefits, to see the benefits, to have the rewards, to receive the manifestations of those things that you have been waiting for, that have been seemingly hard to reach only because you haven't let yourself move in the direction of where they are. Everything that you want, everything that you have set into motion is downstream. That's why so many teachers are saying to you things like, let go and let God. That's why you hear us say, this is the art of allowing yourself to receive the benefit of all that your life has caused you to ask for. Coming into alignment with who you are is what matters most. Sometimes we see you, even Jerry and Esther, they bite off more than they can chew. They have too many miles to drive and too many seminars to do in a short period of time, and a weekly tape to do, and other demands that are being made of them, and they have themselves scheduled so efficiently that as long as everything goes precisely the way they need it to go, they do just fine. But on the morning that they wake up and push the button and the slider doesn't come in, now they're out of balance because they didn't have that extra 2 hours to call technical support. They didn't have that extra 2 hours to take all of the stuff out from under the bottom of the bus and hook up that remote thing. And even though it is always exhilarating to triumph over crises, they don't have time for crises. And when something gets a little out of whack, when you're on a very tight schedule, then you feel the pressure of it, and then you start paddling upstream. And the thing that we're wanting you to understand is that if you could resist the temptation to paddle upstream in the middle of a life situation that is not pleasing to you, if you could just let where you are be an emotional journey where you choose to feel good anyway, where you make the best of it, where you don't beat the drum of everything that's gone wrong, but where you make the best of it. Isn't it wonderful that technical support is even available to us? And isn't it wonderful that these people that are in Canada, they speak French, actually have someone in the Prévost department that can speak to us about our slider? And isn't it wonderful that they have thought this through and that they have put a mechanism there so that we can breathe it in manually if we need to? And isn't it wonderful that we have the wherewithal to listen to the instructions on the telephone and perform the activities that they're telling us and bring our slider in anyway? And isn't it wonderful that it's just an anomaly that happens only twice in the whole year and a half that we've had this coach? And so it's not something that's a big deal. And isn't it wonderful that we can get underway anyway? In other words, when you make the best of where you are, then what happens is your future experience is pre-paved or benefited by the positive influence that you are contributing to it right here and now in what could be an uphill crisis thing or could be a downhill solution thing. In other words, what we're saying to you is the way you are responding emotionally to what you're living right now is what equals your future attraction, creation, and allowing. So no matter what's happening right now, no matter how good or not good it is in relationship with what you think you want or what you want, you've got to make the best of where you are or it cannot improve. You cannot be an objective, honest person who tells everything exactly as it is without holding what is, the essence of what is, into everything that unfolds, you see.